Alright, in this video I'm going to show you how to rebuild the top end on your 2002 to 2007 CR250. It's all really basically the same thing when it comes to two-strokes, aside from, I guess, how your exhaust valve is operated. So, needless to say, I've gotten the bike torn down this far. I have my upper engine mounts taken off. I've taken off the exhaust flange. If you have not done that, you need to do that, or you're not going to be able to get your cylinder off. If you are able to get your cylinder off with that flange on, I'd like to know what you broke or ruined as you came apart. So anyways, I'm going to get a 12mm and I'm going to take all the cylinder head bolts off, and I'll be right back. Or nuts. Got all the nuts off. Just going to remove cylinder head.
Come on, man. Fucking gasket is stuck on the stupid dowel pin. I'll rip you off. I don't care. Watch. Told you, bitch.
So anyways, yeah, if your dowel pin gets stuck, it can become a problem. Head gasket. Come on. Jesus Christ. So, if you're tearing your bike down and rebuilding the top end because, you know, you've lost your wrist pin needle bearing, your small end rod bearing, you probably have a whole bunch of small dings and dents in your cylinder head. If you lost your big end rod bearing, which is, you know, the bottom half of your rod, or your bottom end, the lower end of your rod, you'll have bigger ones. And when it comes to that, you're rebuilding your bottom end and not just your top end, buddy. But if you do have that, you can take your cylinder head to a machine shop, have them resurface it, or you could buy another cylinder head. Alright, so I'm going to continue on with this assembly. I'm going to undo the 4 14mm nuts all the way around the cylinder and get the cylinder off. And probably that dowel pin out. I'll be right back. Alright, got the 14mm nuts loose. I'm just going to take the cylinder off. I have to save a good section of this base gasket. So I'm going to try and be careful in disassembly. This is just for the other part of the video. If you're here for the rebuild, don't worry about it. But I need the base gasket for measurement. I'm going to keep going up. Nice. I have to be nice and easy because I'm saving this piston. Oh, I should have rolled this down, but I did not. Oh, there we go. Just gonna set the piston out of the way. Drop the cylinder down and out. Alright, now I'm going to make a major call out on a company. Whatever you're using for your two-stroke mix, I recommend nothing else other than the Amsoil Dominator mix. I ran this bike all year. All year. Oh, and when you go apart, lift up, push down on your rod. If you have play, you have to replace your crank. Your piston, if you don't have play, you really don't have to replace anything. This is the Wiseco Pro Light piston, and it is still in magnificent condition. I want you to get a better look at this. So, on top of the piston crown, no carbon buildup. None. I ran this thing all year. No major scoring, nothing of concern on the piston. The cylinder, guess what? Same beautiful setup. There's still all the crosshatch in the world on this thing. No carbon buildup. I don't have to take the exhaust valves out and clean them. It is magnificent. The crosshatch is still there. Amsoil Dominator mix. I recommend nothing else. and I will never suggest nothing else until these guys start fucking up. So now we got the cylinder off. Right here, what you would do if you're replacing your piston. I need this base gasket. I need to save this base gasket. I'm just going to push it down out of the way for now. But, let's see if I can get you a little bit closer. Right now, you would take needle nose pliers or a small jeweler screwdriver or pick and pull this circlip out. Pull the wrist pin out this side. Take your needle bearing, your piston off, and we'll get into assembly here in a minute. I've gotten this all apart. Also, you would be cleaning your exhaust valves, your exhaust port. I don't need to because I run Amsoil Dominator Mix. It is clean. You clean up your sealing surfaces, full top and bottom, get them nice and clean. If you have corrosion on your studs, that's normal. Don't worry about that. That's going to happen. You can't avoid it. But if you are replacing your studs in your cylinder, if you're wondering right now, you see these two guys up front? Notice how everyone else is recessed in their ports. Right up front where the exhaust valve is, this guy right here, your exhaust port, that's where those two special studs go that stick out just a little bit. Okay? There's that. Right, now I'm going to do the rest of this video and I'll catch you when I'm putting it back together. Alright, going back together. I won't be changing my piston. Piston is still well within spec. Cylinder still well within spec. I'll only be replacing the piston rings. If you were replacing the piston, you pull this little circlip out, shove the wrist pin through, needle bearing, la-di-da-di-da. Oops, sorry. So all I'm doing now is cleaning off the sealing surfaces. I'm taking off any debris from the old gasket. You want it nice and smooth, clean, no warpage. You can run a machinist square or a straight edge of some sort across the surface. I'm just taking a razor blade and lightly going across the surface, picking up any parts of the old gasket, trying not to drop them in any port. If you do this quite often, you'll have very minimal gasket material to remove. I can't remember if I said I already done the cylinder, but I've already got the cylinder ready. So I'm pretty much ready to start throwing it together. Before I do though, I'm going to replace the piston rings because I don't want to risk damaging the gasket, or if you have a paper gasket, you wouldn't want to risk damaging or tearing your paper gasket. This kit only comes with one, guarantee it. Get the second one off. If you're wondering, this is the Wiseco Pro Light piston. I would like to try the new Racer Elite. I just like 2 piston rings. Alright, so your piston rings will have a little letter or number on them, which way they face. With the Pro Lights, there isn't one. Can't remember if there was or not. So you have these little pins on different sections of the piston. And I'm just taking fingernails and spreading the piston ring, going to the bottom one first, because if we left the top one in, it'd interfere. Rolling it around to its little groove so it'll seal all the way. Next one. Need a little more iron in my diet. And roll this guy around to his spot. Ta-da! There we go. Now, the fancy schmancy new gasket. Looks like these holes are bigger. They'll go on the dowel pin holes. Make sure you have both your dowel pins in. I'm having a hard time getting it over this one dowel pin. There we go. Just had to raise the gasket up a little bit. This might not be the perfect cut. I can't set it all the way down on all four of them. There you go. Just gotta lift it up in places to set it down in others. And hopefully that isn't going to become an issue because it does have a little bow to it there. I don't want to smash it down with my fingers. We'll see. When we tighten it down, it should be fine. It's one thing I'm worried about this gasket is with the paper ones, I always seem to have a blowout. I can retorque the cylinder head multiple times. I'll still have a leakage on one side. This copper gasket being thicker, and I'm just worried that it's not going to seal all the way. I don't want to have blow by. Now installing a new cylinder, I'm just going to set this guy upside down on the bolts. I'm going to need gloves. So I'm just taking the premix that I run and using it as a little bit of assisting lube for installation. Just helps everything go on easier. And I am running the AMSOIL Dominator mix. I keep saying I'll never recommend anything else. Until these guys give me a reason to. Wipe this oil off. Okay. Put the cap on. I see a mess happening. So, I'm just going to go straight down through the top. Servo motor kind of gets in the way a little bit. One connector does as well. We'll go in on a spin. Just set it on top of the piston. Get a reach around to hit. This piston ring is not in its groove. Where's that groove? First piston ring. Okay, yeah, I'm going over the other side so I can see this. Make sure I don't lose a glove in there. Final fucking lead. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to be a problem. Kind of actually sat down pretty flush right there. Sweet. Now we'll just go around and set all our 14 millimeters on. Do crisscross.
have all the torque specs on the bottom, but good luck getting a socket on that. I should do a little wrench, so I'm just going based off the fill. Pretty snug. Pretty snug. Pretty snug. I'm going to hold tight because I don't want to damage anything, so I'm just going tight, I'll call it. Pretty tight. Still tight.
Still tight. Still tight. Alright, sweet. Yeah, and I bet you that's going to seal better than a paper gasket. I'm feeling very confident in this now. Alright, I've already, like I said, cleaned both sealing surfaces, but I had this sitting upside down, and I probably got oil on it now. There we go. No hair, no dirt, no little rusty chunks or powder. Alright. Fathead Racing hooked me up with this cylinder head. They're even nice enough to include some grease for the O-rings, which is really nice. Just give them a nice light layer of this nice tacky grease. Like need a little bit more on this one. And it helps with the O-ring staying in place during installation. And there's 2 O-rings in this one. Oh my god. Get none of this on video. Just listen to me talk. Nice and tacky. Doesn't feel like it's going to hold this one in place too well. Might have been too light on the grease. We'll see. As we go together, if it falls off, then we'll retry. Need another rag. Boss, if you're watching this, I don't know how they ended up in my garage, but they're here. Sweet. Now, the installation. Hopefully this smashes this dowel pin the rest of the way, because it's been kind of a bitch going all the way in. Oh boy. Give us some nice fancy new hardware to go with it too.
These guys are so nice. I don't know if they're like 2 longer ones for the front. Awkward position. That's a much tighter gap than, I guess I need longer ones for up front. I might have to put the original studs on. We'll see. I mean, these all look the same. None of them look taller than the rest. Yeah, they're all the same. I guess I didn't think of that. There's like 6 bolts on that head. Maybe it's just the threads. Maybe it's just the threads. Try this one. That one's going down. Probably just threads.
Right, doing the same crisscross pattern.
I'm just going lightly snug at first. Then I'm going to give some oomph. And over to the problem child, I suppose. Might as well get this guy out of the way.
Let's recheck. First ones are good. Yeah, that's good. Sweet. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the upper engine mount and the exhaust flange back on. Make sure you replace your gasket with your exhaust flange, or you're going to have an exhaust leak. I'll be right back. Okay, just finished putting together the top end, and I'm also going to make a separate video for this. So this is your RC valve install, and I'll go over how you want it to set, what you want it to do. So you want both cables on. I throw this guy on first and then this guy. It makes it a little easier. And then if you just make sure that your cables are all the way up in your servo motor and not hanging off to the side, it helps with installation. So I'm just going to pick this guy up, set him in place, lift the boot, the bottom boot here, and pull up on that spring and cup. And you gotta make sure your nut is not going to hang up like that. Alright, so you got both the cables on. How your standard setting for your servo motor is, you should have it be able to have no play in this cable and it just barely be touching this stopper pin right there. It's kind of hard to see, sorry about all this. So as soon as it barely touches it, you would make sure you hold that setting by tightening this guy down, and then you would tighten these guys down, but not add tension to it. You'd, you know, loosen this one to tighten that one, or tighten this one to tighten that one, and then snug that guy down. You want it to just barely touch, and that's your standard setting. Right on. So after you get all that together, put the cover on, all 4 bolts, make sure you have your gasket in between, and there you go. You rebuilt your top end. Congratulations.